The dusty streets of Lagos's Makoko slum buzzed with their usual chaos as Nia hurried through the narrow pathways, her worn sandals splashing through puddles of murky water. At 19, she carried herself with a dignity that poverty couldn't diminish, her dark eyes holding dreams that seemed impossible in this forgotten corner of the world. John Adebayo's black Mercedes stood out like a diamond among pebbles as it navigated the treacherous slum roads. The 32-year-old CEO of Adebayo Industries had come here reluctantly, following his late father's will that required him to oversee a charity project before claiming his full inheritance. His expensive suit felt suffocating in the humid air as he stepped out, immediately drawing curious stares. Their worlds collided when Nia, rushing to her job at a local food stand, accidentally bumped into John outside the community center. The impact sent her meager belongings scattering across the dusty ground, a few naira notes, a worn Bible, and a faded photograph of her deceased parents. "Watch where you're going," John snapped, brushing dust from his tailored jacket, his frustration at being in this place boiling over. Nia's cheeks burned with embarrassment as she scrambled to collect her things. "I'm sorry, sir. I didn't see you there." Something in her voice, a mixture of pride and vulnerability, made John pause. When she looked up, their eyes met, and he felt an unexpected jolt. Here was a girl who, despite her circumstances, held her head high. Her natural beauty shone through the grime of poverty, and there was an intelligence in her gaze that intrigued him. "Are you hurt?" he found himself asking, his tone softening. "No, sir. Thank you for asking." Nia stood gracefully, clutching her belongings. She had heard whispers about the wealthy man visiting their area, but seeing him up close, she was struck by his commanding presence and surprisingly gentle eyes. As she walked away, John couldn't shake the image of her face. There was something about Nia that called to him, something that made the gilded cage of his privileged life feel suddenly empty. Neither could have imagined that this brief encounter would change both their destinies forever. Weeks passed, but John found himself returning to Makoko more often than his charity obligations required. He learned Nia's name from the locals and discovered her story, an orphan who worked multiple jobs to support her younger brother Kemi, a brilliant boy she was determined to send to school despite their circumstances. During one of his visits, John witnessed Nia defending Kemi from older boys trying to recruit him into a gang. Her fierce protectiveness reminded him of a lioness, and he knew he had to act. "I have a proposition for you," John said one evening as Nia closed the food stand where she worked. The setting sun cast golden light across her face, making her beauty even more striking. Nia looked at him suspiciously. Rich men didn't make propositions to slum girls without expecting something in return. "What kind of proposition?" "Move in with me. Let me take care of you and your brother. I'll pay for his education, give you both a better life." John's words tumbled out, surprising even himself with their urgency. "And what would you want in return?" Nia's voice was steady, but her heart raced. John stepped closer, his presence overwhelming. "Nothing you're not willing to give. I want to help you, Nia. There's something about you that I can't forget." The offer was tempting, salvation for Kemi, escape from the grinding poverty that threatened to crush their dreams. But Nia had heard stories of rich men and poor girls, stories that rarely ended well. "I need time to think," she whispered. That night, as she lay on her thin mattress in their one-room shack, Nia wrestled with the decision. Her friend Amara, wise beyond her years, warned her about rich men's promises. "They take what they want and leave you with nothing but shame," she cautioned. But when Nia looked at Kemi, sleeping peacefully beside her, she knew she would do anything to give him the future he deserved. The next morning, she found John at the community center. "I'll come with you," she said quietly, "but I have conditions. Kemi's education comes first, and I want to learn too. I won't be anyone's decoration." John smiled, impressed by her strength. "Agreed. But understand this, Nia, once you enter my world, there's no going back to this one." As they shook hands, both knew they were crossing a line that would change everything. The slum girl and the CEO were about to begin a journey that would test them both in ways they never imagined. John's penthouse apartment in Victoria Island felt like another planet to Nia. Floor-to-ceiling windows offered breathtaking views of Lagos's skyline, while marble floors gleamed under crystal chandeliers. The luxury was overwhelming, but Nia refused to be intimidated. "This is your room," John said, opening the door to a space larger than her entire former home. "And Kemi's is next door." 15-year-old Kemi's eyes widened as he explored their new surroundings. For him, it was pure magic. For Nia, it felt like a beautiful prison. John kept his word, enrolling Kemi in one of Lagos's best schools and arranging for private tutors for Nia. She threw herself into learning languages, business, etiquette, with a determination that amazed her instructors. But the transformation wasn't just academic. Gradually, under the guidance of a personal stylist, Nia's natural beauty was refined and polished. Designer clothes replaced her simple dresses, and her hair was styled in elegant ways that complemented her striking features. Yet through it all, she maintained the inner strength that had first attracted John. The change in their relationship was subtle but undeniable. What had begun as a charitable arrangement slowly evolved into something deeper. John found himself drawn to Nia's quick wit and unwavering principles. She challenged him in ways no woman ever had, refusing to be awed by his wealth or intimidated by his power. But their growing closeness didn't go unnoticed. John's business associates whispered about the slum girl he'd brought into his world. His ex-fiancée, Isabella, a wealthy socialite, watched with growing fury as John's attention shifted to this unexpected rival. The crisis came during a high-profile charity gala. Isabella, desperate to reclaim John's affections, publicly humiliated Nia in front of Lagos's elite society. "How charming that John has brought his little project tonight," Isabella announced with a cruel smile. "Though I wonder if she knows which fork to use for the salad." The room fell silent as all eyes turned to Nia. For a moment, the old insecurities threatened to overwhelm her. Then she remembered who she was, not just the girl from Makoko, but a woman who had survived and thrived against impossible odds. "I may not have been born with a silver spoon," Nia replied with quiet dignity, "but I've learned that true class isn't about which fork you use, it's about how you treat others, especially those who have less than you." Her words hung in the air like a challenge. John felt a surge of pride and something deeper, love. As he took Nia's hand and led her onto the dance floor, he knew that she had won more than just this battle. She had won his heart completely. The months that followed were a whirlwind of passion and conflict. John's love for Nia deepened with each passing day, but their different worlds continued to create obstacles. His mother, Grace Adebayo, a formidable woman from one of Nigeria's oldest families, strongly opposed the relationship. "She's not one of us, John," Grace declared during a heated family meeting. "Think of what this will do to our reputation, our business connections." But John had found something in Nia that all his wealth and status couldn't buy: authenticity, courage, and a love that wasn't based on what he could provide. He was determined to fight for her, for them. The final test came when a business rival, seeking to destroy John's reputation, spread vicious rumors about Nia's past. The media seized the story, painting her as a gold digger who had manipulated her way into high society. The pressure was intense, and many urged John to distance himself from the scandal. Nia, heartbroken by the public humiliation and fearing she would destroy everything John had worked for, made the painful decision to leave. She packed her belongings one night while John was at an emergency board meeting, leaving only a letter explaining her choice. "I love you too much to let my past destroy your future," she wrote. "You deserve someone who can stand beside you without causing shame to your family name." When John returned to find her gone, his world shattered. For the first time in his life, all his power and wealth meant nothing. The woman he loved had vanished, taking his heart with her. It took 3 days for him to find her, back in Makoko, living in a small room she'd rented with money she'd saved. The slum looked different to him now, not as a place of poverty and despair, but as the birthplace of the strongest person he'd ever known. "Did you really think I'd let you go?" he asked as he stood in her doorway, his expensive suit covered in dust from the narrow alleyways. Tears streamed down Nia's face as she saw him. "Your family, your business mean nothing without you," John interrupted, dropping to one knee right there in the cramped room. He pulled out a ring that sparkled like captured starlight. "Nia, you didn't just change from a girl to a woman in my world, you changed me from a man who had everything to a man who knew what really mattered. Marry me. Let's build a life together that honors both where we came from and where we're going." As Nia said yes through her tears, the entire slum seemed to erupt in celebration. Their love story became legend, the CEO and the girl from Makoko who proved that true love recognizes no boundaries. Their wedding was a fusion of two worlds, held in the most beautiful hotel in Lagos but with traditions from both their backgrounds. Kemi, now thriving in school, walked Nia down the aisle with pride beaming from his young face. Years later, as they built schools and businesses throughout Nigeria, John and Nia's love story continued to inspire others. They had proven that love, when true and tested, could transform not just individuals but entire communities. In finding each other, they had discovered that the greatest riches in life couldn't be measured in money, but in the courage to love completely and the strength to stand together against any storm.